Hi guys, just give me a second. I'm just sorting a few bits out here. I'm just trying to make the just make some changes to the layout. Hopefully that's a little bit better. Hope everybody's doing well anyway. Let me know how you're doing today, guys. Let me know who we've got in. Drop a comment. Seeing a lot of euro dollar downside today. We've had so much going on in the news this week. It's actually been quite incredible to watch price, and obviously price has been moving quite aggressively in both directions, considering the fact that there's been lots of data. It has been a little bit choppy in terms of some back and forth movement, but sorry, guys, I'm just going to pour out a cup of tea from the flask. Right, who we got in then? Prince Caleb. Yeah, it has been a while. How you doing, mate? Hope you're doing well. CG, welcome. Hope you're doing great. Royston, welcome as well. Hope you're doing well, mate. Yeah, hit the thumbs up, hit the likes. I'd like to get the likes on the stream up a little bit. I'm going to show you a couple of trades I've taken today using my sort of day trading setup. I've kind of adapted this. I used to obviously look at level 2 data and futures data, but this is just using volume profile and some range-based candles. Ended up taking a couple of shorts here on euro dollar today. One right at the very top here, or towards the very top, and the other around about this area here, where you can see I've got this kind of line in there. So as price kind of broke that area, I ended up going short around 1.0914, and yeah, ended up actually coming out down towards this area, that 1.0905, where we started to see a little bit of consolidation again, and yeah, price has continued to move on. Left a lot on the table, but when you're day trading, it's important to kind of make sure that we're not too greedy and try and look for too much. But yeah, lots going on at the moment. Obviously, we've got a lot of pound data as well. We'll go talk about the data first. I've also got some commitment of traders charts that I want us to have a little look at. Pound futures being one of those, considering where sort of commercials are positioning themselves on the pound, is something I would like to kind of go through. And yeah, we're just going to talk a little bit about some data that's come out. We've obviously got a little bit of data coming out this afternoon as well. Obviously, dollar data starts kicking off around about 1 p.m. at the moment. So obviously, we had some manufacturing PMI data at 145, which came in a bit better than expected. That's probably why we're seeing this recent sort of dollar rally in the markets. Services PMI, however, came in at 51.7, down from 52.3. So down a little bit there, but estimates were to kind of to the downside anyway. Still above that 50 marker as well, which is decent. And then obviously we've got a little bit of sort of Kiwi data overnight and some yen as well. But yeah, it's been a hectic week. Let's just go up to this area here. I'm just going to switch this over to this week, and then I'm just going to do a couple of filters here just so we can kind of narrow it down a little bit, just kind of talk about the main points that formed in the market so far. I mean, what a week, what an absolute week it's been. Now obviously it kicked off Monday. We had some CPI data out of Europe. We also had some speeches from President Lagarde this week, But ultimately, it's all come down to those interest rate decisions. We had an RBA interest rate decision at 4.35%, which was expected. Pretty much put near enough an end to their tightening cycle there. There was some comments to say that they may have to alter in the future if they don't see the right data, but it pretty much was towards an end there. Bank of Japan interest rate decision was the one that was really being eyed up in the market. 0.1% came out eventually, ending that negative rate. So it's the first time they've hiked in 17 years, the Bank of Japan. So that is very, very significant. The thing with it, though, it was very, very dovish hike, and that's the reason why we've seen the Japanese yen kind of continue to sell off slightly. Cable yesterday, CPI data came in hotter, up from that minus 0.6% figure. But yesterday was all about this Federal Reserve interest rate decision, and the dot plot was a bit of a nothing event in the end, in my opinion. Obviously, we had a lot of movement from it, but there was expectations that the Federal Chair Powell would just kind of downplay things a little bit and try not to say too much about the future. But it came in at 5.5%. The dot plots did change. We did see a little bit of an uptick over the medium and long-term dot plots, which I don't think is too much of a surprise, kind of looking back at it. But obviously, dollar weakened off the back of that. Anyway, Thursday. So, like I said, lots of data this week. Swiss National Bank actually cut interest rates to 1.5%. This could be quite good. I think if we're looking at any kind of Swiss weakness in the market, this is quite good. I mean, the Swiss National Bank actually did front run rate hikes, if I remember rightly. They were the first sort of central bank to hike interest rates. And they did that before the ECB, did that before the Fed. They've now cut before the Fed has, cut before the ECB, obviously. So the Swiss National Bank, obviously, interest rate or the inflation rate in Switzerland is actually around about 1.4%. So they've done pretty well to bring that interest rate down. And the problem with with Switzerland at the moment is because the Swiss franc is very strong, or has been very strong, their exports have been under pressure. Or the cost to sort of export has been under pressure. So the Swiss National Bank really wanted to try and weaken the currency there. So that's something to keep an eye on. From a trading point of view, when you see the relationship now between sort of the Swiss compared to sort of the, let's just say, like the Bank of England holding interest rates at 5.25%, that's something that can be worked on. You could look at maybe pound Swiss and look for potential opportunities on pound Swiss now long, because you've got that differential in central banks and central bank talk. So although coming on to the BOE, we did see a little bit of a change in the MPC vote, where we saw them kind of, nobody really wanted to look at hiking anymore. So that was something to kind of consider. Is this the end of sort of tightening in the UK as well? But I think if we're going to look at it from the differentials between the Bank of England and the Swiss National Bank, then pound Swiss could be one to watch for some further upside pressure. I'm just going to get rid of a few things here. Try and get trading view sort of working. But yeah, let me know, guys. What have you been up to this week? Have you been trading? What charts have you been trading? Have you had any good results this week? Bad results this week? Let me know. But essentially here, look at this. Pound Swiss on that sort of, after that news broke, we had a very, very aggressive rally coming down from the 1.3120s all the way up into the 1.145 handle. So very, very aggressive move to the upside here. And I don't really see this slowing down. Let me just actually come out of this view here. And let's go up to the daily chart here. Now, like we kind of said before, pound Swiss was at an area where we saw lots of sort of downside pressure. I mean, if we look at that chart, that is very much Swiss. strength against the pound. But now we've kind of breached some key areas of support and resistance. You know, we're off up to the next levels now, and the next kind of levels come in where kind of price is heading towards at the moment. We've got all these kind of highs that could be targets for long positions now. So I like the idea of being sort of using that interest rate sort of differential in as an opportunity to try and leverage this market. So all I would do is follow something very, very simply. Obviously, we can use our averages. What I'll be looking at is if price was to kind of, let's say, pull back in any way, shape or form back towards sort of key swing lows that have been formed. So let's say this 1.1360, for instance. If we had to move back into something like that, I'd be very interested to see if buyers can sort of buy that market back to the upside here and see a potential move back up into those swing highs around about the 1.1460 area. So I do quite like the idea of being long here, pound Swiss. Pretty much Swiss weakness across the board looks pretty good. We could probably have a little look at dollar Swiss as well, because dollar Swiss has broken through some key areas of interest. So if we look at the sort of 0 spot 89 highs that price was kind of being capped at recently, we've traded through that now. Nice strong close above. Where's price going to go and head to next? You know, always kind of look out for some key swing highs. So immediately you've probably got this little area in front of the 0 spot 91 handle. We've got this high that formed on the 13th of November, around about 0 spot 9040. In and around that area would be a nice area to look for some targets on dollar Swiss. So again, looking at sort of your 4-hour time frame, all I'd be looking for now is if we get some kind of retracement, can we identify areas where the market has formed a low? So around about 89.25. Can we look at somewhere in and around there? And if that does get a retest, is that where buyers are going to start stepping back into the market? And can we look for moves up towards this kind of 0 spot 9 handle? Okay, so I do quite like the idea of being a buyer of dollar Swiss as well. It's just, where do we be that buyer? Look for those sort of prices to come back into some key areas to look for some longs. CG, hi John, your views on Aussie US dollar. Yeah, let's go check out Aussie. Did quite like downside on Aussie US dollar at the start of the week. If we go take a look at this weekly chart, we can see we had a nice sort of bearish close here from the week. Now, obviously, because of the data that was coming out this week, I didn't really want to be sort of aggressive short this market this week, because you had an RBA decision, FOMC decision as well. So this market had the sort of tools to fluctuate. And, you know, I like the idea of being short down towards the 0 spot 65 handle this week. Obviously, we did kind of start to sort of push early in the week to do that. The market was making nice sort of lower lows, lower highs. Now we've rallied back up. We're coming and testing this area once more, this 66.20. So I'd like to see how this plays out. You know, do we get a rejection of this area and a close below again? Because what that kind of tells me is that buyers aren't really interested here. They're more interested in bailing out of their positions, and sellers are more interested in taking over at that point. So if we can kind of hold below this sort of 66.24, I'd be happy to be more of a short seller Aussie US dollar. If, however, we do start to maybe like push higher and climb above this sort of area here, you know, I think anything above 66.20s, anything above 66.40s, I would probably flip my bias at that point, and I'd be looking for some longs instead. Do I see that happening right now? Not really. You know, to me, that is a very, very important zone of resistance. So if we got that strong, let's say we got this strong daily close as it was right now, I'll be on the sort of hourly time frame the next day, looking for areas where price could come into to find some resistance. So we've got this kind of area up here where we can see around about that 0 spot 66 handle is quite a nice area to have a little look at. Psychological number as well. So if we were to kind of bounce up into this area, depending on how the daily chart sort of closes, then I'd be looking at something like that as potential opportunity going forward. You can see actually we kind of come back down into this minor low here right now, and we are starting to find a little bit of support sort of early in this US session, market coming into that sort of area here where you've got low volume start picking back up again. So I wouldn't be surprised if we did see some kind of short-term bounce in and around this area up into 66 resistance. And then it'd be interesting to see how price plays out there. Do we get some kind of rejection in and around this point, and then look for that downside? What I would suggest is just kind of looking at how the daily chart closes first. If it closes a bullish candlestick back up in this area, then may need to rethink that idea. But if it closed as a daily bearish candlestick, I'd be quite interested in playing this kind of short-term range that we've got going on at this point. Royston, dollar Swiss long is a positive swap to also earn while trading. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's a good point. Let's go check out the euro dollar trade that I did them. So I haven't really focused too much on the currency strength meter this week. Reason being is because I've obviously done it. I've planned it out. I've talked about it in the week ahead analysis video. But when we have weeks like what we've got at the moment, when it's such heavy sort of data influenced, the currency strength meter can just go out the window at that point, because the market is reacting to something rather than sort of front running anything. So yeah, I just think that the currency strength meter this week was not necessary. Instead, I just kind of focused more on sort of some day trades and opportunities. So obviously yesterday we had a very strong sort of run up. So I like the idea of maybe fading that move. That being said, the reason why I quite like this is if we just go to the 30-minute time frame, I do talk about volumes quite a lot. And I noticed this area up here, this untested volume. So from the day of the 14th of March, basically, this is the day here. If I just kind of highlight it with some vertical lines, this day here between these 2 points, we had sort of a consolidation throughout the majority of the day. US session came in and we had an aggressive move to the downside. So that was obviously driven by some kind of fundamental influence at that point. And then obviously recently, yesterday, we had that FOMC sort of rally. And I noticed this morning that we were kind of holding in around this area here. So I had one or two scenarios, and this is why I quite like using volume profile, or if you're familiar with like TPO charts and things like that. The reason why I quite like it is because it can just show us real clear defined areas to kind of plan positions from. If I just look at it from a candlestick chart perspective, and this is why I talk to you guys about trying to find consolidations in the market, because consolidations are areas of volume, and this would be a good example of that. You've got a sort of strong consolidation. What I mean by consolidation is just the market is moving sideways. Okay, there's two real clear defined kind of points there of highs and lows, and the market breaks out of that. What that tells me is that in this consolidation, buyers and sellers are happy with where price is. They're finding fair value. They're kind of bouncing off back and forth. Sellers then win. So for whatever reason, obviously it was a fundamental driven at that point, but for whatever reason there, sellers have took control of the market. Buyers have given up at that point. That's why the market has drove to the downside there. So I quite like the idea of if price got back to that area, how would sellers react? Now, I don't know if sellers are going to react at this point. We can only make sort of a probable chance that we might get a reaction there. But what I noticed was we had a bit of a consolidation starting to form. And what I noticed actually was price started to break a little bit earlier. So if I actually go to my range bar sort of chart here. Now this is a 30 range bar. And what that basically means is each one of these is 3 pips, okay, of movement. Now that might not seem a lot, but it's just can clear up the price action a little bit. If I was to turn this back to a candlestick chart and just go back to this area here and go to a 5-minute time frame, okay, you can see it just kind of cleared that information up a little bit. Okay, so we've got the kind of consolidation in there. The market rallied above that point. So I like to look at consolidations and say to myself, well, if price is going to hold above a consolidation, then I expect continuations to the upside. If we come back within that consolidation range, I expect price to come in at least test the low of that range. I don't know if anything else is going to happen. I don't know if we're going to get the movement of what we had today. I mean, my ultimate target was down sort of here. You can see I've drawn on this like 5-minute time frame here, this kind of area of highs around about that sort of 1.0923. But I didn't know price was going to, you know, break down there at all. I just saw that the fact that we had obviously aggressive move up overnight, we consolidated in that morning period, or over the Asia session. So as I was coming into Frankfurt session, I was thinking, well, what are the Europeans going to do? Are we going to start rejecting, and or are we going to start moving lower? Now, obviously, using volume profile, we can just see and just get the sort of overlay of what's happening at this point. Obviously, we've got a point of control there as well, where price ended up coming into and pretty much rejecting at that point. So I waited to see if price could break that area, and then I looked for the short. So I'll just bring in my trading terminal here. You can see this is where I entered a short position. I'll just actually zoom in a little bit. So you can see that I entered a couple of shorts today. Just making sure you can see that. So that was another short there. And these were my shorts from this morning. So like I said, I like the idea of price breaking that range, okay, coming back within the range, and then looking to go and target sort of the other side. Now, the other side was where my first TP was, where you can see that little sort of blue arrow is there. That was my first take profit. Now, I actually got a little bit unfortunate on the second one because price broke through a sort of a minor area of resistance looking left, or support, sorry. And I actually brought my stop loss from break even down towards that high there. And yeah, unfortunately at the time, the spread just kind of took me out of that move. So unfortunately, I was trying to trail it to see how things played out, because obviously we had French manufacturing PMI, German manufacturing PMI, and German manufacturing PMI fell for a second consecutive month, which has put a little bit of a negative sort of impact on euro. And that's why we've seen a lot of sort of downside euro pressure. So that was the kind of first thoughts. And then obviously later today, I was kind of seeing if price could kind of pull back towards this area of consolidation, because again, my theory is when the market builds up with consolidation, that's volume being built up. There's obviously a period of consolidation in this area. So I just wondered if price came back to that point, would it reject it? Would it continue to sort of push to the downside? Now, obviously on a candlestick chart, it's this kind of motion here where we make a new low is why I got involved with the market. If I just go back to my 30 sort of range there, again, just kind of clearing up the price action a little bit. You can see the 30 range candlestick formed a new higher high and then broke through and formed a new low. So that's why I entered a short position there. I entered a short. So if I just bring this back in and we just move back across, that is here. Okay, enter the short position, price moved down. I targeted this minor area. I didn't know whether price would continue down today, you see. I didn't know whether it was one of those situations where price rallied, come back in, you know, and then it would find support and continue to try and take the earlier sort of consolidation pattern again. So I ended up just, again, very much a day trading move, looked for a small price movement into another area of consolidation there, which was around this price at that point. Okay. Then obviously since that, you know, the market did try and come back up and sort of break higher, kind of failed again. And then ever since we've just been kind of trading lower. So we're now kind of coming back into yesterday's value area. So in theory, the way I would kind of think about that is, so if I just go and mark out yesterday's value area, which is here down to here. Okay, let me just double check that. Yep. All right. So the way I kind of think of this is, well, if we get accepted back in this area here, is price going to kind of retest it and try and find the other side of value again? Are we going to try and push down to an area here? If we reject, come back up and hold above, then I would expect us to try and maybe move back to the upside. But essentially, this is where 70% of yesterday's volume has been held. And at the moment, the market is seeking in that area. Okay, so one thing I like to do is just sink it in the layout, have a little look at what's going on with price action here. Obviously, we're still making lower lows, lower highs on the 30 range candles. So I'll just be watching this now. If we can get a bit of a pullback back to the upside, okay, maybe a little bit of a move up and a retest of that sort of value area high of yesterday, I'll be looking for something like that to happen potentially with euro dollar. So we might actually be able to catch a little bit of a short continuation move here, you know, if we're lucky enough to do so. But obviously coming back into this area now, trying to find sort of volume. Now the highest, or the point of control, so the highest traded volume yesterday was at 1.0841 according to this chart. Obviously it's hard to tell because we don't actually have the futures data to work with. But we've got 1.0868 as the sort of second. So that's kind of in and around our area where price is kind of heading towards at the moment. So that's where we might find a bit of support just in and around this point here. You know, again, if we kind of think of it in consolidation form, if I just grab, whoops, didn't mean to do that. Is it control? Okay, so it's not letting me copy that. Let's just clone it up. You know, if I think about consolidation again, that consolidation in here is where price could be heading at the moment. So let's see how price reacts to that. We might get a little bit of an opportunity because of that. Royston Gold has retraced back from yesterday's high. Did you see the price increasing in the long term? That's a good question. Obviously, I like the idea of gold moving higher. Let's actually take a little bit of a look at gold, and we'll have a little look at the cut data in gold. I actually prefer silver. I actually prefer silver longs, or did prefer silver longs until 25.50. So we've been pretty bullish silver since $22, and you know that has been a 15% increase until we kind of hit this resistance level today. And we're starting to see a rejection. Now, obviously, gold's going to be affected by the US dollar, the dollar prices. So it depends what we think about how the dollar's going to play out here. Now, is it going to start being bullish again? Does it continue to sort of drive higher? If it does, gold could be in a little bit of trouble here in terms of, you know, the market trying to break higher. I mean, that is a classic sort of sweep of that high, isn't it? It's a classic sort of, people have probably tried to get a little bit aggressive long here, and it might be biting them a little bit. So the people that have bought, let's say people have bought the breakout, okay, this is where we like long ideas, right? We like longs down at this area. I think I put it in the week ahead analysis video this week, I think. I like the idea of longs here because price is finding a bit of a base, okay, and it's slowing down into that level, right? Now, if somebody's bought the breakout, where do you think their stop losses are going to be? I think it's going to be sort of here, right, down towards these lows there. So very similar to how I traded euro. We've got a consolidation. Arguably, if we want to argue, that's your consolidation sort of breakout. If we get a pullback and a rejection of the consolidation high, I wouldn't be surprised if we did try and come towards these lows and perhaps even break these lows. Longer term perspective, I don't know where gold's going to be. We're kind of in new territory here. I would probably say that gold is bullish longer term, and but would I want to be a buyer of gold right now? No, I want to be a buyer of gold right now. It needs to pull back. It needs to do something. Let's go over to the futures data. I will come back to cable. Let's go. Current traders. Get rid of this. If you want to find this information as well, guys, I will just drop it in the chat box. I know I do this quite a lot, so you might already have this, but I will just drop this in the chat box. I know we've lost contact with Facebook at the moment, so I'll try and sort that out for the next live stream. But yeah, let's have a little look. So we've got energies, metal. Let's go take a look at the commitment of traders on gold. Let's see if the selling pressure has got more aggressive. I think the last time we looked at it, it wasn't as aggressive as I thought it was be, and I thought that gold maybe might try and break higher because of it. So what we can do is, I'm just going to pop this chart out. I'm just going to bring in the commitment of trader report at the bottom. So the green line is non-coms, okay, and the red line is commercials. So commercials are in the gold market for business purposes. Non-commercials are like large speculators, hedge funds, traders, things like that. They're trend followers, so they're buying at the moment, which is expected because price is moving higher. Businesses will be selling because they're trying to take advantage of the price of it. Okay, so think about it as sort of supply and demand. If the price is high, you want to be selling more gold. Okay, from a business perspective. So, do I think gold could trade higher? Absolutely, and this could be a good reason why. Because if we look at these sort of commercials here, and I kind of take a look at it as, when was the last time we had a real sort of breakdown in gold? And I'll just kind of highlight these areas here. So we had that area there. I don't know if I can change the narrative of that. Yeah, let's change it. There we go. Okay, so that was a big sort of turning point where price of gold fell quite aggressively. We had a bit of a fall here as well. Let's have a little look in there. What were the contracts at that point? Okay, so contracts on the short side were around about 216k at that point, minus 216k, which is where gold sort of prices are now. This big downturn, however, was minus 308,000. We're nowhere near that at the moment. Don't know if I can draw a horizontal ray on there. Let's have a little look. And with commitment of traders data, I really want to see extremes being met. Okay, really want to see extremes being met. Hi Bongo, hope you're doing well, mate. So is this a good point of selling gold in the long-term picture? Well, probably not, because if commercials aren't aggressively selling gold, and they're the people that are going to benefit from it the most, what do they think about gold prices? Do they think it's going to continue higher? Now, obviously, I would love that extreme, that sort of 2022, July 2022 extreme. We also have to put into consideration the fact that we did get sort of a slight extreme here as well recently, which was back here in January of 2024, where minus, so it's around that minus 250k mark. And obviously price at that point, let's see if I can copy this drawing over, clone tool, here we go. And obviously at that point then we did get a slight downturn, but it wasn't anything aggressive at that point, was it? We had like a move down from sort of $2,060 down towards $1,800 or $1,900, and that was about it. Price then continue to push higher. So the way I kind of look at this is the fact that we're not really at an extreme yet. Okay, we're not really at an extreme of selling. So I do think gold prices in the sort of mid to long term could probably trade higher here. We've also obviously just got to keep an eye on the fact that of the US dollar, is the US dollar at a point where it's going to continue to get stronger? That could obviously put a bit of pressure on gold prices. But we also have to think this is a weekly chart. We can see here price doesn't move in a straight line. So I do want to see some kind of pullback. I like the consolidations, in and around sort of this area. Where's that gone? Rectangle. In and around there, towards that sort of $2,100 level and below. I think that's where I would like to be sort of a buyer of gold, in and around this point in here. But obviously at the moment we're trading much higher than that. Even if we look at the sort of non-coms or the sort of hedge funds, large speculators, they're not even at extremes on their sort of buying. So we'll just clone this up again. I don't know where that's gone. Did I clone it? Clone tool. Okay, I can't see it on the screen, but let's just drag this up. So what you really want to see is extreme buying from non-coms, extreme selling from commercials. Then you can see usually a top forms in the market. We haven't got that yet. We've got a little bit longer to go, essentially. I think before we see a big turnaround in gold prices. Hi, Big Hasty. Hope you're doing well. Bongo, euro, dollar. Yeah, I have gone over euro, dollar, but I will kind of touch base on it again, and we will go over cable as well. But yeah, I think from a short-term side of things, Royston, I'd be more interested in a potential sort of short-term short. Like I said, down towards this kind of $2,100 area would be something I'm interested in on gold at the moment, but we'll have to wait and see. I have to wait for my charts to load up. Let's go back up here for now. Let's go back a little bit because I do want to have a look at pound futures. So this is what I find really interesting about pound futures. We are kind of coming to extremes on pound futures. So the difference between sort of gold and sort of cable is this. Okay, so breaching sort of extremes that we haven't seen for how long? So we haven't seen non-coms this aggressively long, obviously since this dip here recently. But if we go and look back in history, we haven't seen non-coms this long pound futures since 2007. Okay, we were at very different prices back then, but that's significant in itself. And then if we look at the sort of sell side on the commercials, the last time they got heavily short was here back in 24th of July 2023, and price fell from 1.3 down to 1.2. But if we look left there, that selling pressure hasn't been seen since 2007. So really kind of big changes in the commitment of trader reports these past few weeks, and I do keep an eye on them. Obviously, you just have to take them with a little bit of a pinch of salt. Like I said, I like to see them when they're at extremes, and I think we're nearing a potential top here on pound at the moment, and that could be around about that 1.3 area. If we consider this kind of high here, 1.3126 as the sort of high which kicked off a bit of a downturn before, could that be the same again for cable? Okay, let's see if this is loaded back up. Yeah, here we go. So yeah, gold, I like downside in the short term. If we can breach 121.50, then I like sort of $2,100 and just below sort of $2,086. So yeah, if I just flip back over to Euro Bongo, yeah, I was just talking about some sort of downside trades that I've taken today, some short trades that I've taken. I was basically short up here, and then I recently got short here, and we were just talking about, is price going to get accepted? Whoops. Is price going to get accepted back within yesterday's value area? Okay, so the value area high was 1.0882, down to value area lows around about 1.0837. And I think if price can kind of stay within this area here, it could travel to the other side. So what I'm kind of anticipating here is if we kind of come a little bit lower, find support, pull back, find resistance, then we could come and trade down like this. Obviously, that would be different if price kind of breached this area. Then I think we could probably trade back sort of to the upside. But we're back within this kind of value area. I've picked out sort of a volume zone within this area where I think we could start seeing a little bit of bullishness coming back into the market. So that's what I'm waiting for. I'm waiting for a pull, continue down, pull back. Can the market form another high in here? And then I'll look to try and potentially get in an opportunity there on euro dollar. But we're coming into volume at the minute, so I wouldn't be surprised if we got a little bit of a bounce up at this moment. But yeah, let's go flick over to cable, because cable has completely dropped. I did think about shorting cable this morning, but I didn't. I shorted euro dollar instead. It was just at a little bit of a better area, but very, very similar. You know, you had this kind of large pocket of volume up here. Price came into that. We've then consolidated. What happens? We breach that consolidation to the downside, and then price has just continued to push lower. So, you know, always try and spot those little areas of consolidation, whatever time frame it may be, because that is buyers and sellers kind of going back and forth with each other, and a breakout of that can lead to something good. I mean, from a cable perspective, we broke into value yesterday, and we've just sunk. We've just gone to the other side of it, and now we're at volume. You know, if I was just kind of to bring this down a little bit, consolidation there that we broke out before the FOMC is now being retested. So we might see a little bit of a bounce here. Okay, might see a little bit of a move up before either price trying to come and take this, maybe this low down through here. But ultimately, from a higher time frame perspective, you know, I do like the idea of 128.60 being a potential top from a commercial commitment of traders point of view. Might not get there. We might just take these lows, and it might just continue to the downside. You know, you've got sort of these lows down through here as areas of support. If that makes sense. Yourself, nice job, John. Thank you, mate. I hope you're doing well. But yeah, any other charts you guys taking a look at, let me know. I've been very sort of major based at the minute because of the dollar moving, so I haven't really taken into consideration anything else at the moment. I did have a nice long on dollar yen earlier in the week as well. Basically like the idea of being a buyer after we had the Bank of Japan sort of data that dropped. So if I just go over to dollar yen, we go down. Let's have a little look here. Over. Here we go. Yeah, so I took 3 longs on Tuesday. Was it Tuesday? Let's have a look. Where's that screen gone? Not that one. I don't know where the news tab's gone. I think I've got rid of it. Can't remember what day it was. I feel like this week has gone very quick. Tuesday, Bank of Japan interest rate decision on Tuesday. And essentially what happened was, obviously, this was a big area of volume, okay? We got accepted back into it. We didn't reject it. So my theory is it could go to the other side of value, which it did. Now, what I liked was this area here. So the point of control of this entire area was 150.48. And price actually kind of tried to kind of hold here. But what I noticed was we had a very aggressive bearish move. Price came in. We had a very shallow bearish move. What does that tell us? Well, it tells us that the sellers that have got in again haven't been forceful enough to drive prices back towards lows. So I actually felt that if we breached higher, we could look for long. So I basically got long on the breakout here. I had to sit for a little bit of pain, but then price came up, and as it retested those highs, I got out because I just felt like price was rejecting the high. Should have held it really, because 150.88 was my overall target, and then it breached that and even went up to the next level of resistance at 150.180. So I missed out on like 100 pips there for a move higher. But the yen weakening is just super interesting right now, because I think many people, including myself, would have thought Bank of Japan hiking rates. That's big. That is. We're going to see some yen strength off the back of it. Just hasn't followed through. And I think that's because it was fairly dovish. I guess the Bank of Japan don't really want to shock markets. But also, if I think about it in terms of intervention, when we were talking about intervention in the past, I think we were talking around this area for some intervention. But the Bank of Japan didn't actually intervene. There was no intervention. There was just suspicions that they intervened. So does that mean they can let dollar yen go a little higher? You know, are they happy with maybe 160s on dollar yen? You know, so it's going to be interesting, because if we do breach 150.180, then, you know, I think dollar yen could move a lot higher. So definitely an interesting dynamic. I think we should probably keep our eyes on going forward. Bongo wants to take a look at Euro Aussie. Let's go take a look at Euro Aussie. What are you looking at to do with Euro Aussie, Bongo? You're looking to be buyer, seller? Let me delete some of this off the chart. Let's have a go the weekly. So I can definitely see a build-up of consolidation here, right? From a weekly chart perspective. So we've found support. We've moved sideways. So from my point of view, what I would be looking for here now is probably some kind of breakout of direction. What have we really seen from the market this week? Well, Euro's under a bit of pressure. Although the ECB are saying they need to wait for more data before they make any kind of action. Then we've had German manufacturing PMI down, and we've also had French manufacturing PMI. Now, German manufacturing PMI is quite big, because obviously manufacturing data in Germany is usually a good driver behind the euro. So that being down is quite important. But I also think Aussie's fairly weak at the moment, and I think that's why we're driving this sort of sideways price action. The only way I would look at this is probably from a range point of view. So if I was to kind of pick out a range low, probably use more recent price action, and then a range high. Let's just take it from here. That's the way I'd be looking at this market at the moment. Price has come down into support, into those lows. You don't want to be short at lows, right? You really don't want to be short at lows. If you are short, you want to be exiting at lows, okay? The first point of resistance, don't be afraid to take profit at the first point of resistance, or at least just take some off, you know, and then trail your stop. But yeah, I could see price just kind of range bound at the moment, and in a range bound market will come down towards lows, it will reject, try and move back to the upside. So you could even argue up back in towards 166.26. You got that bit of consolidation in there that maybe Euro Oz might want to come and sort of test. Could be on the cards. So if you're looking at range plays, I'll be looking to see, can price come back, reject again? That would be influence for a move back higher there, I think. I was selling yesterday on Euro Oz. I made some money. Nice. That's always good to hear. Always good to hear. Sorry, I don't want to let my tea go cold. There's been that much news in the market. I've just been carrying a flask of tea around. just so I can top myself up without having to move anywhere too often. Trying to keep an eye on everything. Good afternoon, Vincent. Hope you're doing well, mate. Aussie CAD long. Aussie CAD long. Let's have a look at Aussie CAD. I did quite like CAD weakness in the market, and that was because of obviously some recent data out of Canada has been pretty poor. But we are starting to see a little bit of a bounce on oil, and obviously that could drive sort of CAD to be a little bit stronger. Again, is there better markets to trade? You know, I'm looking at that thinking, yeah, I like obviously again consolidation. What is consolidation? It's volume. Prices come back into it. We've started to reject it. So if you were long down in this area here, you know, that was a good long to look at for opportunities to the upside. But at the moment, that rejection would scare me to go long, to be honest. That rejection there would put me off quite a bit on that one, to be honest, Vincent. I think there's better markets. Like think about the situation with the Swiss franc at the moment. You know, could you potentially look at Aussie Swiss for longs instead? You know, look at that breakout of that area there. Could go and try and seek all these different highs. At that point, think about it from a fundamental point of view as well. If the Swiss National Bank is cutting rates, they're starting to cut rates before anybody else. They want their currency to be weaker. So selling Swiss francs right now, I would think is a pretty good idea. Just try and find it against currencies that are getting stronger. And CAD Swiss might be one to look at for a long. I mean, you've got that 68 up here. There's not really a fat lot in the way of that in terms of stopping that from this recent run down here. And like I said, oil prices are starting to have a little bit of a rise, aren't they? If we go take a look at oil, wherever it may be, let's have a look at US oil. We've recently breached out of these highs. So we breached $80, made highs around 84, 83, sort of 90s. Starting to come back down a little bit again. But are we just coming back to test sort of this in here? So again, rally, consolidation, rally. Are we coming back down to test that consolidation, to test that volume in and around this area here? I don't know if I can get volume on this chart, but yeah, pretty much in that area. If we come down towards $79, $80 there, sorry, 79.80, then we could look for a bit of a rejection here for a continued move to the upside. Let's have a look at how this is looking on a weekly. It's funny how you just expand out and everything looks completely different. Because now you're thinking, well, it rejected 82.69, made a lower high. Those lows there have now become resistance. I still think that could trade through that. Again, only issue, obviously, is the dollar's getting a bit stronger at the moment. That's helping push that price towards the downside here right now. But I'd be very much interested if we came towards this area here and we started to see a move down, a move back up, price fail, and make like a higher low there. That'd be something I would be fairly interested in on oil. Let's have a quick look at Brent. Very similar situation. Again, look at consolidation. What does that breed? It breeds volume. 84 on there. Looks pretty good. Yeah, I quite like that. I'm going to set an alert here for myself. Haven't traded oil in a while, to be honest. It has been a while. I think these were my last shorts here, where you can see got some back in December 23. I think that's when we were shorting natural gas as well. I haven't actually looked at nat gas in a good while. Where's platinum futures at? We're looking at platinum, weren't we? I might finish on Was it platinum? That's palladium. Yeah, it was palladium, wasn't it? Not quite there yet. I expected Swiss yen short to move quicker. It may have started today. Oh my God, Swiss yen. We were talking about that breakout ages ago, weren't we, Royston? I think didn't quite materialize in the way that I thought it would. You know, we had a consolidation here. I think the only thing that we kind of could pick out from this is the fact that, you know, we said we identified that it was a consolidation, identified that it was a range, and that I'd only be looking for shorts back in this area here, and I'd be taking my profit at lows. And I did actually take a short position in on this day here, but it was a sort of day trading position, and price has since obviously kind of broken through that area. But you're right, you might be starting to get that move a little bit early. I just think obviously the Swiss franc is obviously having a bad day at the moment. You know, we tried to kind of come back up into that swing high, didn't we? If I just kind of get rid of the range low there, tried to come back up into that high and just failed. So yeah, maybe it is starting to move now. Maybe have a little look. You know, obviously we've developed some kind of consolidation around this area in here. Might be able to kind of maximize that a little bit more. So maybe somewhere between that sort of 169.75 and above could be a good resistance zone. So maybe a rally into there, continuation to the downside at that point. Obviously, Swiss weakness is something we've really got to consider now. Swiss yen, though. Yen's a little bit weaker, isn't it? Price action looks pretty good. I think we were talking about price coming all the way down to 165, perhaps even 163 at one point. So, yeah, maybe see that daily close. If you get a pull back into the next day, you know, maybe it might close a little bit of this move. Might try and push back to the downside. I do think dollar yen is obviously approaching resistance, isn't it? It's at resistance. And if you think about cross pairs, like I always say, if you're trading Swiss yen, what are you trading? You're trading the dollar yen price against dollar Swiss. You know, what do you want each market to do then? Well, if I want Swiss yen downside, I want dollar Swiss to be moving higher, and I want dollar yen to be moving lower or be at resistance. So we've got that, really, haven't we? We've got dollar yen at resistance, dollar Swiss is moving higher, showing that Swiss weakness. So Swiss yen moving short makes sense until that happens. You know, if we breach there, then the dynamic might change a little bit. Yen might weaken a lot more aggressively than the Swiss franc at that point, and then you've got a different kind of situation going on. But yeah, I like that. I like that. Finally, probably getting that little bit of a move there. So we'll have to wait and see. Let's have a quick flip back over to Euro. Let's see what it's doing. Yeah, it's starting to find a little bit of support in that area here. Can we see a rejection back to the downside? I'll have to wait and see. Getting a little bit of a rejection from that volume area. So we'll see. What I'd ideally like to see is just it fail to kind of make new highs. But considering where cable's at, you know, coming towards the end of the European session as well, or London session at least. Might just get a bit of a short-term bounce there. Might have to look at it tomorrow. Okay then, guys. Right, I think I'm going to leave it there. I will speak to you all next week, next Tuesday. Thank you for everybody joining me today. If you could leave the stream a like, I would really appreciate that. I'd like to get to a few likes. I am trying to set up some giveaways as well for the streams as well. Maybe some kind of trade credit or something that I can try and work on. But I am trying to work on something behind the scenes to get some kind of rewards for you guys for turning up to the stream, because I do really appreciate you spending your time coming to watch this. So I want to try and give back in some way. as well. So I am working on that. So hopefully I can bring that to you soon. I'm just going to give a few shout outs to everybody that kind of commented today. So Prince Caleb, CG, Royston, thank you very much. We also had Bongo, Chris F, Big Hasty, and Vincent. So thank you guys. Really appreciate you coming as usual. Like I said, I'll work on that in the background, and I will speak to you next week. Have a great rest of your week. Still lots of data coming up, so be careful. And I will speak to you. I'll speak to you next week. Cheers, guys.